Okay, welcome. This is the Board of Health for Gardner, City of Gardner. We are, it is May 20th, 2024, and we are starting the meeting at 4:34 p.m. Meeting is called to order. The first item on the agenda is approved minutes from April 22nd, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
When you got it for it.
I've noted one correction. Bottom of page 2, the identification of the recording needs to be updated.
Do what?
The identification of the recording,
Oh,
it's like
okay.
that, she didn't update it, it needs to be April, so I'll give that to her.
Oh, okay.
Any other corrections or suggestions?
I think there's some discussion to go.
Yeah, I just sort of, I just remember us having a conversation about the motion relative to the city council on that, and I feel like that one sentence is a little ambiguous, or, yeah,
I agree.
I think that, I mean,
Our intent was to just send the information over to the council for
Right.
review. We were not,
that we were interested in it, but we had no specific recommendation
Right.
as to how they act on it.
Right.
We were just kind of, the motion, I believe, was just to recommend that they review the
information.
information.
So maybe just being more specific on the motion.
All right, so if I were to have her update it to board members approve the motion for the city council to review the information provided by paint steward legislation? Or encouraged? How about the board members?
I the city council with no specific,
Actions
uh,
suggest recommended.
yeah, right, with no specific recommendation from this board. I mean, I think, isn't that what, you would have to go back and listen to it, I guess, but wasn't that your recollection?
Yeah, we weren't, all we were doing was saying, approving the fact that we will send the information to the city council members for them to review or do whatever they want to.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
I
we
don't
were
know if
not.
we even needed a formal motion for
I
that
know.
anyways, but, we're certainly interested in it if it's something that, but we hadn't seen any proposed legislation, so we couldn't make a recommendation.
So board members approved a motion recommending the city council review the information with no specific recommendations from the board.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, I'll update that and have it ready
Any
for the
other
next meeting.
discussion on anything else? Do you have any other corrections? Okay, so we will wait and approve the meetings next time.
Okay.
Yes.
One more thing.
Sure.
If this Eddie is our new food inspector, but we should clarify who that is. Second page, third paragraph.
Right,
Mm-hmm. So you would like to add his last name there?
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Should make sense going forward when we refer to him that it refers to a specific person.
Right, just to clarify.
Well, I mean, in this situation where he's kind of being introduced, I think for the record, it would make sense,
I
yeah.
think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. Health department updates, and we have these two. I guess that can go in under the updates.
Yep, so the first thing we're gonna do is pass around the funeral director permits for signature. Those always require a wet signature from you guys. So I neglected to print them prior to the last meeting, and I recalled it immediately after I left the office that day, so here they are for you. And then the attendance sheet is going around also. Other updates, so Micah gave this to me as a health department updates as all on one kind of outline. Would you like me to break it down to new business and old business, or do you want me to just run through this as the updates? He didn't really give me anything for new or old business.
You can just run through
Run
it,
through it, okay.
and we will discuss again about separating it.
Okay.
Next.
So, for the outreach coordinator position, Gardner High School and Galt had the health fair on April 24th, and that was well attended. We also had her organize the Paw Walk fundraiser with GDTV, and that was on April 27th. Veronica organized a pre-prom speaker, and that was on May 1st, and that was geared toward, prevention of drunk driving and intoxicated or drug-induced driving for prom goers. She's also working on drug story theater at Galt. She did that on May 14th. There was a comedy night for the AED Foundation on Saturday this past weekend, May 18th.
Huge success.
Was it? I hadn't
Huge
heard much about it yet.
success. And we actually had it in City Hall
Mhm.
auditorium, and it was packed, and even in the balcony. So it was good. They were very good.
Glad to hear it was a successful event. I know she worked really hard on that one. She continues to do game changers and tab training at the Mount, and that is a 6-week program that is currently underway. And she's planning to continue for National Night Out, which is coming up on August 6th. At the transfer station and the landfill, Keep Gardner Beautiful hosted a nip hunt trash cleanup on May 4th. The event there was also very well attended. It was a beautiful day. We had a larger turnout than I've seen in the last 3 years. So that was very nice to see. They also had a ribbon cutting for Keep Gardner Beautiful at the transfer station. There is a new metal container box down there where Diane LeBlanc can keep all of her supplies, her bags, her vests, her litter grabbers, her buckets, when she's storing nips in between drives, because she does continue to pick up our city week by week. She does get donations for the nips, so she collects them there. She had previously had been storing them all in her basement of her home and in her personal space. So we were able to secure a container so that she could move all of her stuff, be centrally located at the transfer station, so she doesn't have people dropping off bags outside her house, or she's not collecting garbage at her house to then later bring down to the transfer station. It's a much more sanitary use of her property, and it's a better use of her time. So I'm glad we were able to attend that with her and see that happen for her. It's just after 10 years of cleaning the city, it's really something that she deserved to have her own space that the city helps provide for her. Mike is still working on the grant applications to add structures at the transfer station for more recycling capacity and a possible swap shop. And he's still in the process of getting quotes for the landfill transfer station projects. And I know he has met with Dane from DPW, and I know that we just had a reminder or an extension on the grant application came in today, so I'm going to follow up with him on that tomorrow to see where he is in that process to make sure that we're moving along. For housing and nuisance complaints, now that we've hired Eddie as our primary food inspector, I've transitioned into doing primarily housing and nuisance inspections. There has been a significant increase in housing and nuisance complaints recently, but we've had no new condemnations. 2 of our previous condemnations, both of them, one was from just before Christmas and one was from last year in May, are on my schedule to be inspected for fitness for occupancy this month. So that's really encouraging, because a lot of times once we condemn a property or a unit as unfit for human habitation, it just never comes back into the inventory of available housing because people kind of give up on it. So that's really encouraging to me to see those properties, being improved. And and one of them I did an inspection on. She just had to do a couple of other things for the building department before we could actually issue the occupancy. But it was really good to see the amount of work that's being done into some of these restoration projects. For food, we now have Eddie, who's currently still training. He's been conducting some of his own inspections independently. He's gone and done some follow-ups on my outstanding violations for food, so he could just check what was my last report, mark it as corrected or needs more work, and close out those reports when appropriate. And he is starting to do some inspections on his own, some of the smaller establishments, some of our little retail convenience stores, which are more simple operations, just to kind of get him up to speed while I'm busy doing housing. And I'm still continuing to work with him on some of our more complex challenges. But the routine inspections are ongoing. Luckily, we had we've always tried to repeat within 6 months, or we had been trying to repeat within 6 months, although we've shifted to more of a risk-based schedule. So I had a whole bunch of inspections in February and March, and then April and May were a little bit lighter for food inspections, just because of the way of the flow of how it worked. So we have worked out some software challenges with our software, and Eddie's starting to get the flow of it now that he's got his iPad working correctly, and we're both on the same version of the program, which was great, because I was training him on one version of the program, and when they installed it on his tablet, he had a different version than I had. So that entire 3 weeks of training I had done with him, he's like, why does it look like this? And I was, let's see if we can't get on the same version so that we can both be learning the same way.
Is this a state program?
No, there isn't a state program.
I didn't think so, that's why. You had to purchase, the Board of Health had to
So
purchase the...
Board of Health licenses for it, the IT department pays for it, but it's been in practice for about 4 years now. We're really starting to use the software to its fullest advantage over the past 2 years. So I really want to make sure that Eddie has a really good comprehension and we don't start to backslide in the progress that we've made in that area. Gardner seasonal food trucks are all now open. They're all inspected and there were no concerns with any of them. It was a great time. Eddie and I were able to do all of those inspections together. Food trucks, we typically only do those in the spring and then at the summer food truck festival, so it's a good learning opportunity before we hit the food truck festival and we have 25 trucks to do in a day. And you got to come up and do a couple with me. We had no additional foodborne illness complaints since our last meeting, which is promising. We are still waiting on the floor plans for Chipotle and Jersey Mike's. So we'll be relocating to the former Southside Grill over on Broadway. And the food truck festival preparations are still ongoing. I'm coordinating with Mark Lant from Root Trucks to make sure that we have appropriate permits in place for all the vendors that he is signing up to participate. So he's recruiting and organizing and doing the layout, and we are just permitting, and I'm ordering porta potties in the dumpsters for Gardner. But it's taken a lot of load off of not only our department, but also a couple of other city departments that we have this person who coordinates food truck festivals for many municipalities doing it this year versus us trying to scramble every year and squeeze it in between the other work that we do. So that's been really fortunate. Under public health, we received 2 sunscreen dispensers through the Montechusett Public Health Network, and they're going to be going in at one at the pool and one at the dog park. And beach water testing began today. The beach anticipates opening on Memorial Day down at the Lithuanian Club. So yeah, weekly from now until Labor Day, one of the health agents has to go collect a water sample and drive it to Neshoba and Lakeland Air. We do that for them because it does need to be a third party doing it, and we have to take Greenwood pools anyways. And when they open in a week or two, we'll be taking those 2 samples out to Neshoba and Lakeland weekly.
How soon do we get those results back? Like, if they
In a day or 2.
Okay, so we'll
So-
know before.
Yeah, we'll know before they open. Typically, I get it by email within 24 hours, and then we get a written report typically within 3 days. They're really great. They have a great turnaround.
It's gonna be hot, so
Yeah, that's okay.
What about the other pools, like, do we do anything with, like, I know Haywood and there's a few apartment
Yep,
complexes.
so we have 3 what they call semi-private pools in Gardner. One is at the Haywood, one is at Ridgewood, and one is at the Greenwood pool. Which is a public pool. The other 2 are semi-private. We go in and we do a pre-opening inspection for their pool license, but we do not do water testing as they are considered semi-private, so they're responsible for their own water chemistry. We do the Greenwood pool because it has a higher beta load, and it's more susceptible, I think, when you have a lot of children, younger children with swim diapers and things like that, accessing the pool more frequently.
And Dunn's is done by the state.
Dunn's is done by the state, yes. We do not oversee Dunn's pool. But we will get on those inspections. I'm working with our new human resources director is also the manager of the Greenwood pool, and she's going to be learning to do the permitting and the pre-opening inspection over there, so I'm going to be working with her on that. Staffing, Mike is in the process of completing his Title V soil evaluator certification. He had his field test last week. He will wait about a week to get his results, but he did really well on his written exam, so I am very hopeful for him.
And you've already done that.
I already completed that and achieved that last year in November, so.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a really hard certification. It's probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And it's been many, many years since I had to take a course like that, which was similar to a college science course. But Micah seemed to be getting a pretty good grasp on it. I gave him some things that helped me when I did it, so I gave him all my notes also. So I think he probably will come out better than I did, but in the end, it's the license that we passed for, so we've done a couple of perks this spring already too, so that's been helpful. When he's had something come up, I can just slide right into the position. We don't have to reschedule a perk, which is typically, you have to get an excavator there, the person to operate the excavator, and the engineer, who is the design professional who creates the system, to do the perk test. And then if something happens that morning and you have to reschedule, it's very frustrating for a lot of professionals. And sometimes rearranging the equipment and the professionals to be there is not easy to do. So it's nice that we have 2 of us in the city now. If something happens, one of us can slide in there.
Okay. Any thing else on new business that anyone has to bring up? Well, I have a couple things. One, as on my way here, I noticed in my mailbox was the report of the testing for the water. I know that the Board of Health doesn't do that, but inside, I just looked briefly, but inside there was a nice discussion about PFAS and everything. So for those people who were questioning about our water and what was PFAS and everything, there's a nice little discussion in there. So I'm looking forward to reading more on that.
Thank you.
And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is social media. I been seeing, there's a food pantry of sorts that had started in a residential home. And, it's a very good thing that it's, people are wanting to help out. But I am very concerned about whether or not there's Board of Health involvement because, the foods, even though they're not prepared foods, they're all packaged foods, but it's outside under a small contained tent or something, kind of facility, building. But I'm very concerned about the temperatures on the foods. And especially now with, the heat's going to be up this week and humidity. So and also, again, social media, but I notice frequently there seems to be so many of these pop-up bakeries out of people's homes, and are they supposed to be inspected?
Yeah.
And along with that whole thing is maybe we could do something of reminding people, maybe on the social media page from the Board of Health, about food safety and handling food, especially with the heat coming up, and about permitting, to remind people that they can't just all of a sudden open up a bakery outside of their home and sell foods. There's reasons for why we have licensing permits and have inspections to prevent foodborne illnesses. And then if a foodborne illness was to erupt, how we can quickly identify it, investigate it, and prevent it from spreading. So, in educational purposes, I think we need to do something. And then as far as addressing things.
Yeah. So, on the first point that you made regarding the food pantry, so on Thursday we became aware of it. We were contacted by a couple of different local media sources for our comments on it. I did make a comment with Micah's permission regarding two specific questions. And one of those questions was, can you operate a food pantry at a private home location? And by food code, no, you cannot. It's prohibited by the food code, 100%. You cannot run any type of food service other than a retail kitchen for home sales, which is small bakeries, which we'll talk about next, out of home. And it is required to have a permit under Massachusetts general law. So that is something that Michael was going to address on Friday. Unfortunately, he got called out of the office unexpectedly, and he continued to be out of the office today for the same reason. So he was going to follow up on that. I will follow up with him tomorrow to make sure that we close that loop, to make sure that that person is aware of what their requirements are and their responsibilities under the law and the reason for those responsibilities, because it is for food protection of the
obviously people need, food and resources. I mean, we do have a food pantry, and if that's not accurate, that's not fulfilling all the needs, then we need to address that, certainly. But I just am concerned about, spread of foodborne illnesses.
Right, so my concerns for the location and for the operation that's happening right now would definitely be protection from pests and protection from uncontrollable elements. This is an open shed, greenhouse type shed that is unmanned, and the food is just setting out there for people to come and take, which seems really easy to do. It makes it less confrontational, less embarrassing, doesn't impact people's, sense of, they don't feel ashamed to go and to participate. However, that also lends to the fact that somebody could tamper with the food that's there. It also lends to the fact that animals or insects or other pests could be getting involved with the food. And as you mentioned, this is actually a miniature greenhouse that this food is set up in. As the temperature in the sun increases, even your canned and bottled foods and your dry shelf-stable foods, which don't require temperature control, are going to become impacted because they're reaching temperatures that they should not be reaching if they were stored correctly. So those are just some of the concerns that I have about the actual operation.
Is the food being collected at that site, or?
It's all being donated. Some people are purchasing food and dropping it off, and some people are just going in to take food, but it's not. So there are some questions about the availability of parking, the accessibility for ADA compliance, and for obviously the food code, which is our component here. And it's very, very tight restrictions under the Mass Food Code. I looked up and wrote a determination already that I gave to the two media sources that requested it. So it just needs to be brought to that facilities operators.
I mean, it's a great idea, and I commend, we have to do it with following some guidelines and safety nets and stuff, so.
Yeah. So the other thing is we do have plenty of permitted food pantries in the Gardner and Greater Gardner areas. We have the CAC right on here on Pleasant Street that works very closely with the Gardner Senior Center.
Does, I know, all the senior centers.
And on Central Street has also one. And what a lot of people don't realize is many of the area churches who do have food permits already do have a food pantry set up for their parishioners or other people in the community that they feel they can help. So there's a lot of resources available. The two media sources that reached out to me did publish a list of at least 12 in the Greater Gardner area where you can get food that has been, stored in an inspected facility that meets the requirements of the Massachusetts Food Code for protection. So, those are. It's very challenging and frustrating to spend so much time and effort on somebody and something that is not wanting to follow the rules, but we're going to have to step in and unfortunately do some enforcement, which may require a hearing before this board or may require some citations to be written. So I'm very discouraged by that.
Yeah. And the other issue with the home bakeries and stuff, I don't really know. I mean, certainly, I'm on Facebook so little, and I'm not going to be trolling or policing who's there. You can't. That's not how things are done. But I am concerned that there are so many popping up.
There are a lot popping up, and there is a path to get a permit for a residential cottage kitchen. That includes having an application and inspection. I opened 3 of those such kitchens this year already. There are 5 total in Gardner that operate as bakeries, and we have one who does pickles.
Oh, good.
And so they do have certain requirements. They have to be under the Massachusetts Food Code. I have a special inspection form for that. I was even able to open one with Eddie a few weeks ago in Gardner for a bakery that.
Well, that's encouraging that people are following and coming in and getting the right.
Some people are following, some people do not. When I do find something that I can identify, whether I get a complaint or a report of, I do send a cease and desist letter that tells them what the steps are, but they have to immediately cease production of food in their property until it has a permit and an inspection. So unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do. I can't, they're in residential areas, they're knocking down the door to try to gain entry to inspect. But other things that I would encourage the public to do is if you're curious about whether or not the person that you found on Facebook has a kitchen license in the community in which they're working in, they can call our office and ask, and we're happy to give them a list of permit holders. So that can help, ensure that their food is safe and that they're not supporting somebody who's doing something that could not only be unsafe, but they're also doing it illegally. They're not operating as a proper business. They're not paying any taxes that would be due. They're not having inspections that they should have. These are, just some concerns that we have.
Yeah, so maybe we can also share something like that on I just, it's one foodborne illness that, a cross-contamination, unknown even, that can really cause a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Is there a cost to the permit and the inspections?
So it's $25 annually, which includes the permit and the inspection.
Okay.
It's really it's not cost prohibitive.
Doing it, but it doesn't
It's not cost prohibitive. And it really, it takes us about an hour. Our our time for the inspection and the permit review, so it's relatively, it's not, we're not trying to pull in the money off of
No.
anybody who's trying to do this.
But you want to make sure people are, serve safe, and, understand about,
Right,
just
yeah.
because of allergies and stuff, I
Right.
think about,
So anybody who has a retail kitchen for bakery sales, and it's very restricted to what products they can make at home. Nothing time controlled for safety can be produced. So it's mostly like cookies, cakes, pastries that don't include like cream cheese frostings or any like custard fillings. They do need to be safe certified, they need to have an allergen awareness certificate, and they need to have an inspection with us.
Good.
They also, if, we do have one cottage kitchen in Gardner that is operating on septic and well, so they need to have annual water testing submitted to us to make sure their well's not contaminated. And while they're not required to have a grease interceptor, we've encouraged them to consider the threat to their septic system by having possibly an increased load of grease and use. So those are things that we're kind of on top of.
Thank you. I just always, wanted to know if we can share information with the public to just remind them, then I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I've made a note to do some more social media campaigns, and now that I'm moving more towards housing and Eddie's starting to operate independently, I'll have a little more time to do that. And my other plan for this spring, summer, if I have time, is to reorganize the health department's webpage on the city hall webpage, because it's been kind of a
It's a little confusing.
some of the challenges are that even though I have access to edit it, there are some sections, like the left side navigation panel is locked by somebody. I can't move it around, so I want to organize it more effectively, and it's stuck, so I can figure out who to talk to regarding that. A couple of other things, but I'd like to be posting, having a page for housing concerns or for environmental concerns. I'd like to have a page for food concerns, just with some of what our policies are, what some of the state laws and regulations are, and have it in an organized way. I've kind of been looking at Leominster and a couple of other communities that I like the organization of their pages, and I'm just gonna, snag that for an outline for us and put up some of the handouts and other information that I've collected that help me learn to have them available for the public, because there's some really good tools out there.
Oh, I know.
That, but you have to know where to look for them, like community sanitation page, food protection program page, the FDA page. There's a lot of information out there, but it's not readily accessible for maybe, or people don't look far enough for it. If I pull it all into our page, and I can have you have this concern, but you don't want to make a complaint, you don't want to be identified. Here's our page, go to this link, and you'll find some information about that. We had one of those calls today from somebody who doesn't want to identify themselves, but they were concerned about mold in their house. So I just took her email address and I sent her a bunch of information, and I said, please feel free to contact me if you want more help with this, but here's a good place to start. So.
Okay. Do you want to set up the next meeting?
When you want those to sign, Jeff, or is that-
Yeah, I was just wondering, is this one a new permit or is that a renewal also?
This is a renewal.
It is?
Yep.
Okay.
Were they duplicates or?
No, no.
Should be all set. All those thank you.
Isn't there Juneteenth? Is that the 17th?
Juneteenth is 19th.
Oh, okay. So it's either the 17th or the 24th.
I can do the 24th. I can do either if I need to, but the 24th is probably easier for me if we're not pressed to get anything done sooner than later.
Yeah, that's usually the week we're away, but I'm not sure what we're doing yet because Jack's in the middle looking for.
Do you want to just go with the 17th?
So yeah, I can do the 17th or you know, we can always change it if you wanna try for the
That, it's
24th.
no big deal to me at all, so,
Okay.
alright.
Alrighty. So the next meeting is set for June 17th at 4:30 p.m.
Are we good to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.